You can have it all, not by holding it all, but allowing all of this to hold you. One of the biggest shifts I've made in my identity is believing that life wants what I want. And if I don't yet have what I want, it's because I don't actually want it. So sit with that. If you don't yet have what you want, it's because you don't actually want it. You don't want it to the level where you're willing to commit and make the shifts that you need to make to become the version of you who has it like down pat, right? So we keep ourselves from having what we want by entertaining the fears of why we can't have it. The fears that you can't have what you really, really want, that you can have some of it, but not all of it. You can kind of have it, but not really, because it will not be that great. Or in the end, you'll get taken away. You can have it, but then you'll lose it. You can have it, but not for a really long time, or you just can't have any of it. Sorry. Does any of these stories sound familiar? Have you played any of it in your head? Because this is the stuff we tell ourselves that keep us small and keeps us separated from that next level of who we want to be and the things we want to create in our life. You know, it's not a joke when people say that we are more afraid of our light than we are of our darkness, because that's what happens. The more we embody more of a light, the more it's going to illuminate our darkness. It's going to illuminate the trauma, the pain, the hardships.
Welcome to It's Not What You Think, the podcast that takes you on a transformative journey to rewrite your story of greatness and reawaken your soul's purpose. I'm your host, Celine DaCosta, a subconscious mind expert, master coach, and believer in the limitless power and magic that lives within all of us. My intention in this podcast is to propel you into your next level of success so that you are free to create the life that your heart most desires. Through deep, actionable insights, personal stories, and world-class guests, I'll provide you with the tools, strategies, and resources you need to unlock the fullest expression of who you're meant to be in this lifetime, so that you can consciously design a reality that is beyond what you could have ever dreamed of. Join me on this journey to personal growth and evolution, and let's live our lives in accordance with our highest soul's calling. This podcast is your weekly check-in to help this path become more simple, obtainable, and fun. Thank you for tuning in today, and now let's dive in.
Hello, familia, and welcome back to the podcast. Today is a solo one. It's just me and you. And I've got to be honest with you. I sat down in front of my chair impromptu and I decided that I'm just going to press record and I'm going to go without overthinking it, without looking at a script, without taking notes, because it feels like what wants to come through me today is important, not just for me, but for you and for us. And not only that, it needs to be unscripted. That's the point. And so what I want to dive into today is the topic of navigating big identity shifts. And actually, let me correct that. Massive identity shifts. What does it look like to change who you are on a deep identity level? And what are some practices that we can use in order to facilitate the process? Because, you know, the process of change, it's not always easy. It's not always graceful. It can be, but it not always is. And when we are talking about change on an identity level, and when we are talking about ego deaths and really letting go of parts of us that we used to be and changing who we are on a biological, cellular, and just personality level, my gosh, there's so much material that can be said about this. And that's why this podcast exists. For those of you who have been following along, you know that I have several episodes on the power and importance of learning the skill set of changing ourselves. But today I want to get personal. I want to dive in and you know, as per usual, the best way I can really share what I know and share what I've learned and share what I've embodied is through sharing my own personal experience. And then also the experience of the clients that I've been working with and my students, of course. But I feel there's no story that's more potent than the one that comes from what I've lived, you know? And something that I have been speaking into in the past few months is that I'm going through a really, really, really big transition, of which I don't yet have all the words for. So I can't sit here and like tell you what that transition is because I don't feel I'm enough on the other side. But what I can tell you is this. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm going through a big life transition and a massive identity shift with eyes wide open. And what I mean by that is in the past, I talk about this in the first few episodes that I've ever done on the podcast when I talk about my journey of couch surfing the world by sleeping in the homes of strangers, how I quit my job in New York City and just off I went to completely change my life. And there's been multiple instances in the past decade where I've just radically changed something about my life, had the courage to do it, but I wasn't necessarily fully aware of what was going on as it was happening. So just to give you an example, over 8 years ago when I decided to go quit my job in New York City and go travel around the world sleeping in the homes of strangers with a one-way ticket, I was just like a couple years into my self-development. I had no idea what nervous system regulation was. I didn't understand mindset, limiting belief systems, how to process my emotions. I did not have a smidgen of the training, of the knowledge, of the wisdom, of the experience of facilitating others through huge transformation that I do today. I just kind of went at it pretty clueless. And, spoiler alert, it worked out really well for me, better than I could have expected. And there was also a lot of growing pains. There was a lot of doing shadow work without knowing I was doing it, looking at just ego death when you don't know what's happening is extra painful and can create extra suffering, I have found. When you don't know why life is changing, when you don't yet trust life to have your back in whatever that change looks like for you, when you are just afraid and have no tools to manage that fear and no understanding that you're going to be okay on the other end, it can feel like you are going through this really, like you're falling and falling through this dark abyss into your doom, and you don't know what to do. That's what it can feel like to be in the unknown when you don't yet have a relationship with what it's like to be in the unknown, when you don't yet have a relationship to what it feels like to be acclimated to being uncomfortable, to having a higher tolerance for being uncomfortable, being, dare I say, comfortable in being uncomfortable. When we haven't learned those things yet, it can feel really scary. And that's what I found in the past is life would present me with challenges. Life would, I don't like this word, but let's use it for the sake of it, would quote unquote force me to make a change. And because I wasn't ready, because I was resisting it, because I didn't know what was happening, I would fight it and it would hurt and it would be awful. I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. And I'll use that example from 2016 since we're there. Back in 2015, I was getting very clear signs from the universe that I needed to change my life because I was very unhappy. And the trajectory that I was going on, which was, working 10, 12-hour days in corporate America, not feeling like I was on purpose, not feeling like I was happy, constantly exhausted, not taking good care of my body, like all the things. I was not living in my highest soul purpose or alignment at all, like very far from it. And the universe kept nudging me with opportunities, which at the time I saw as problems, opportunities to, hey, here's a job offer in another country. And I'd say, no, I don't want that. Hey, your rent is coming up and then your rent's going up. Like, you want to leave? Nope, didn't want that. And it got to the point where I ignored the signs. And then I got hit hard, which I know is something that happens to people when they just keep waiting and resisting and avoiding the shift that the God, universe, source is asking them to make. And what that looked like for me in that instance was within 2 months, I had several incidents happen that really pushed me over the edge. My grandfather, who I was very close to, died. I went on a volunteer trip to Cambodia where I was working with orphans and really just like literally had front row seats to one of the poorest countries in the world with some of the most atrocious, humanitarian problems on the planet. And then during that same period, I thought I was a shoo-in for a promotion in my corporate New York City job. that I didn't get. And I was really upset about that. Didn't get the raise I thought I was going to get. My rent in New York went out and realized I had to move out within 5 months. My then boyfriend at the time breaking up with me on my birthday. And all of these really like, ouch things happened within months that drove me into this despaired state of like, no, I have to change my life. I have no choice but to change my life. I have to leave New York because not only because I'm choosing to, but because literally my lease is ending and I can't afford to stay here. I don't want to be in this job anymore because I don't feel appreciated. I had a relationship tie me down. I don't have that anymore. And all these like very big events that happened in my life forced my hand to get to the point where I was so in pain, so much suffering, so miserable, so didn't see a way out that I realized that the only way I could do this was to drastically change my life. And so I started that process very much like in reaction to events that were happening in my life. And 9 months later, fast forward to that, that's when I quit my job, decided to travel the world. And that's another story for another time. You're welcome to listen to the first couple episodes of this podcast where I go into detail about that experience and how I decided to do a social experiment where I just threw myself into the world, literally challenging myself to circumnavigate the globe by sleeping in the homes of strangers, like just going through my human network. And that was one of the most transformative experiences for me that completely shifted me on an identity level. I was not the same woman that left New York. I came back a completely different woman. And also, because I didn't have the tools, because I didn't have the knowledge, because I didn't have the wisdom, understanding of what was going on, I was kind of like, oh my God, I'm just throwing myself in here. And I really hope I don't have a job. I have a little bit of money saved up, but not enough to support me for, more than a few months. I don't know what to do with my life. I'm careerless now. I was in a lot of panic. And this is what I find when life forces people to take action and change. By that point, it can be extremely uncomfortable and it can drive people to change, sure, but it's coming from this place of despair, fear, panic. I have to do this. I have to do this now, which can then invoke feelings of scarcity, of survival state, which is not at all friendly to the nervous system at all. Because going through a big change, going through a transition, whether it's in your business, maybe things are changing in your business, you don't feel aligned with the way it used to be anymore, and you feel like you need to change it, but you don't know how. Or there's a transition going on in a partnership. Maybe you've been in a partnership for a long time and now you're feeling like something has to change, whether you both go your separate ways or something just has to drastically change in the relationship. Or even noticing like the way you live, maybe with your health, the way you take care of yourself, feeling chronically exhausted, feeling not healthy, and realizing that you have to change the way that you are because, you don't want to get to the point where you get a diagnosis, God forbid, and then you have to change. You have no choice but to do so. But most people wait. They'll wait until crisis. They'll wait until it's a choiceless choice that has to be made. And one way or another, God's going to redirect you. Like that, you're going to get course corrected. But I believe that we have free will because we get to choose when that moment comes. And we also get to choose that that we don't want it to be a place of crisis, that we can make change from a place of joy, inspiration, and well-being instead of waiting to make change and shift who we are because we have to, because there's no other choice, because now the collateral damage is so great that we have no choice but to, and we're being driven by guilt, fear, pain, suffering. It's not a great way to go. And so back to the current state that I'm in, and not only that I'm in, but I know, I've been speaking to a lot, my clients, my colleagues, there is something going in the air right now. It's happening on a collective level. And, at the time of this recording, it's July 2024. And this year has been a freaking whopper for a lot of people. One of the things that I love about my work as a coach and as a facilitator practitioner is that I'm a fly on the wall in the conversations of a lot of people, into the secret thoughts of a lot of people, the fears of a lot of people who confide in me. And I can tell you that there are so many people right now that are being asked to shift their identity, to change their behavioral patterns, to change the way they walk on this planet, to change how they're doing business, what they're doing business for. And there's a greater inquiry on a collective level of, why am I doing this? And where am I going now? What's actually important to me now? Not then, but now. Without, going too deep into the energetics of what's happening on a planetary cosmo level, we are being asked on a collective level to change the way we walk. And it's like, so many people, especially the light workers out there, especially those of you who are super empaths, super heart connected, visionaries, who are literally like in the process of creating heaven on earth, and you truly believe in that. Yeah, you're being asked to step up big time right now. Big time. Which requires a certain shift in how you think, and how you act, and how you're feeling about yourself and your life. And so I speak for me, but I also speak for those of you who need to listen to this message right now, that number one, you don't need to wait until crisis in order to make a significant shift and pivot your life in a way that is more in alignment to your soul and your purpose and your mission. And that number two, when you consciously decide to welcome in this shift, which is going to happen one way or another, it's happening. How it happens depends on your decision to show up and say yes to what life is presenting you with the opportunities that you're being presented to. And rather than labeling them as problems, to see them as opportunities to step into that next level of you that is being called to arise right now. And so the way that this has looked for me, it has been a very profound initiation of reclaiming my power and understanding that in the moments when I feel that my world is crumbling and falling apart on me, and things are not happening, I'm getting very uncomfortable, I'm getting irritated, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling powerless, because I feel so out of control with all the ways that life is shifting. My business is shifting, my relationship with myself is shifting. I just completed a relationship that's shifting. There's been a lot of changes. But when I'm feeling these things, it's important to recognize that they are symptoms. They're symptoms. And this has been a profound training that, thank goddess, I honestly feel, hand on my heart, that the reason why I'm able to do this so well myself now is because how many times I've caught clients in this loop and had to stop them and had to support them into, rewiring them not falling into that spiral. It has actually given me the skill set to catch it within myself, and realizing that when we are feeling all kinds of ways, yes, our emotions are real, but they're not the truth. They are not the truth. What I have realized is that when we are feeling symptoms like this, for me, what I've realized, it's a symptom that parts of my old self are dying. It's a symptom that I'm changing, upgrading my identity. It's a symptom that I am in the process of healing through dysfunctional patterns and belief systems and replacing them with new ones. That I'm learning how to occupy more of my body, more of my lighthouse, so to say, and embody my soul. When we are going through changes and we choose to do it wide open, it's important to recognize that if you are committed to going through a massive identity shift, and by identity shift, what I mean is your identity, who you are, how you subscribe yourself to, what your personality is changing. It's changing so that you can be the version of you who naturally, organically has what you are envisioning to have. Whether it's that next level house, that next level business, that next level relationship, with yourself, that next level of health. Standards. When you raise your standards, you need to become someone who can meet those standards, which means that the parts of you who didn't meet those standards, the parts of you that self-abandoned, the parts of you that sabotaged, the parts of you that didn't think you're enough, the parts of you that didn't think you were worthy, they need to be worked with. They need to be seen. They need to be recognized. They need to be validated. They need to be integrated, AKA shadow work, as we call it, back into your being so you can embrace more of your wholeness. Because these fragmented parts of you, until you learn to see them and embrace them, accept them, and integrate them into your system so you're operating as a wholer version of you, those parts of you will continue to fight for your attention, and they will continue to behave in ways that don't work for you. Okay, so I'll give you an example. If you are deciding that your new identity, like the identity you want to step into, is the identity of somebody who is fit, who has a really like strong, fit body that's healthy, that's putting good things in your body that are nourishing to your body instead of taking away from your body. If that's the new identity that you're stepping into, but you are, let's say, eating Doritos every single day and you're not moving your body the way it needs to, you're not going to the gym or whatever movement feels good for you, but you have this expectation that you're going to be a healthy, fit person who's healthy from the inside out, but you are not acting that way. You're eating Doritos, you're not going to the gym, and you're just like not really paying attention to your sleep, for example. You are not the version of you that you want to be. You are not that new identity shift. And so for you to become that, you're going to need to let parts of you go. You're going to need to let the part of you go that keeps on reaching for comfort food when you get emotional. You're going to need to let the part of you go that keeps creating excuses when you put your alarm in the morning and you say you're going to go to the gym and then you're not going to go to the gym. Like the part of you that's inconsistent with yourself needs to be shed, and you need to step into a new one, right? And so when there's a gap between who you are and who you want to be, when there's that identity shift, and when I talk about massive identity shift, we're talking about example is somebody who's like, I just started a business from scratch and now I want to, have a $500,000 business or $1 million business. That's a big jump. That's a big identity jump. Or somebody who's been single for 7 years and not have had, functional relationships up until that point, and now they want their life partnership and they want a family. That's a big jump. And they're all possible jumps. But again, it requires you to be able to stand in the heat and be willing to look at in which ways am I not behaving and I'm not acting? Am I not feeling as a version of myself that I'm looking to embody? What is the gap and how do I close that gap? And shit, it is terrifying and what the fuck kind of scary, from the outside looking in, because it does require work. It does require a really huge shift in how you relate to the world and how you relate to yourself and how you relate to others. And so when you are realizing that the shift, like you're ready to take on the shift, there is this level of self-responsibility that needs to come in of you fully choosing this, fully committing to this, and also realizing that shit's going to come up. Like you can count on that. Your crap is going to come up when you decide to go through a big identity shift, full stop. Because when you raise your standards, when you decide and commit to becoming a higher, better version of yourself, when you decide to embody more of your light, what that's going to do is it is going to illuminate all of the parts of you that have been hiding in shadow. And you can bet that your unconscious will be like a vampire when you shed that light, when you illuminate with your awakening, with your conscious awareness, when you illuminate the parts of you that need to be illuminated to come into integration and resolution for you so that you can embody more of who you're meant to be, because your unconscious, subconscious has tons of gifts for you when you reclaim the parts of you that are in the dark. But it's going to come up. And for most people, especially if they don't have training or they don't have someone to guide them through the process, it can feel very scary, very heavy, and very intimidating, because it will require you to look at parts of yourself that have been in hiding, that have been abandoned, that maybe you don't even like. And it will require you to come into acceptance and love with those parts. So just to illustrate how irritating this can be for some people, think about it this way. Think about someone have you ever been to a workshop and you go into the workshop and there's immediately somebody in that room that triggers you? The way they talk, they're annoying, or you can't stand their face. There's something about them that you don't like. So you spend the next 3 days of the workshop just completely avoiding this person, pretending like they don't exist. And if there's any partner exercises, you run the other way. What would happen if you actually went towards the people that most trigger you? What happens if you actually, instead of running away from or avoiding, you leaned into them? We naturally don't do that because there's a reason that person is repelling you. There's something about them that reminds you of a part inside of you that you haven't come to peace with, that you don't like. Maybe it's a very angry person that is just like constantly being rude and aggressive. And it reminds you, because you don't express your anger, there's a part of you that's getting stirred inside, because now you're getting agitated and it's not safe for you to express your anger. So now, surprise, you're really repelled by this person that's a full expression in that they have anger. Or maybe there's a really beautiful woman who's super sexual and super comfortable in her sexuality, and you're not yet comfortable in your sexuality. So you avoid her because, you think she's a harlot or whatever judgment you're projecting on her, but it's actually coming from a space of you not being embodied in your sexuality. What would happen if you actually started to partner with that person and see their humanity and actually lean into the trigger, which are your biggest teachers? Lean into the trigger, lean into the discomfort, and be in the same space as that person and see them as a human. When you do that, you start to heal something inside of you, because you start to see that every single human being, we all have our shadows, we all have our light, we all have something going on. And when we can really learn this is like an externalization of what like true shadow work is seeing what we don't love, accept, like in another person, and just accepting that in them and realizing that they're human beings. And again, it doesn't mean you have to tolerate it in your life. For example, abusive behavior doesn't mean you have to like accept it from a perspective of allowing and tolerating that like abuse in your life. It's more so to say that we all have our story and we all have our skeletons in our closet. And when we can learn to accept that, and really start to see people in their humanity, we change for the better, we expand, we grow, and life becomes more graceful. So back to that example is what happens about if you were to face the parts of you, the part of you that eats Doritos, gets emotional, eats Doritos, and then beats yourself up for it. Like, what is up with that? The part of you that says you're going to wake up in the morning and do something and then you do something else. What is up with that? Not in a judgmental way, but like, can you lean into these parts of you? Because that's where the true work is when it comes to shifting your identity, is understanding what those parts of you have to communicate with you in the first place. Because they all have a message for you. They all have a message for you. A really good example that I know I've personally been through this, and I've had clients go through this. Women who are extremely hyper independent and are in their masculine for a lot of their career, and then decide that they're exhausted and they're tired and they want to take a more feminine approach to business. So then what do? They swing the pendulum all on the other end and become super feminine, super flowy. We call it, in pop culture, we call it the soft girl era. And as a result of being super flowy and super like, woo, I don't want to work and I don't want to do anything, they stop working or they like don't work as well as efficiently. And then what, they'll notice is that either the business will get affected, either like not as much income will be coming in, or they won't be as productive, or some problems will start to pop up. And then basically it creates a stress cycle on the other side of the pendulum. But when they integrate that part of themselves, what they realize is that shadow that doesn't want to do anything, or that like wants to be feminine goddess flow, that shadow actually had a really important message, which is, hey, can we balance freedom with purpose? hey, can we actually like have more joy in our life? Can we actually create more spaciousness in our life? And when you go from one side of the pendulum to the other and you swing back into the middle and you do the shadow work and you integrate, accept yourself, then what you can do is you can take the gifts from the shadow and you can integrate them in the way that you're operating now, therefore creating an identity shift. So even in the example of, the gym example, maybe, what that part of you that's emotionally eating Doritos or whatever your sin food, mine is dessert of choice is, there's a part of you that's like, hey, I'm emotional. Please pay attention to my emotions and comfort me when I need it. But that comfort doesn't need to be food. You know what I mean? And when you learn to integrate that shadow and to learn how to comfort yourself when you need it, to pause and give yourself that time and space, then you become the version of you who can emotionally nurture yourself without needing external substances to feel better. Does that make sense? And then you make you have an identity shift right then and there. So those are just a few little like touch point examples of how you can identify the shadows and the parts of you that you're rejecting, abandoning, looking the other way. How can we look at them straight on? And similar to, going to the person that you're most triggered by in the workshop, like going to the part of you that you're most triggered by, spending some time with it, seeing it in its humanity, and also recognizing what are the gifts that this formerly neglected part of you has for you. Take the gifts and then correct the behavior that isn't serving you, whether it's, excessive use of drug, food, sex, alcohol, whatever, work, whatever your vice of choice is. There is a way to replace our vices, the ways that we look to meet our needs using external things, which never works. And it's a complete dead end because it will lead you down a very empty road, and actually start to internally resource ourselves. And as we do that, then guess what happens? We become more whole. Our identity shifts into our highest possible timeline, and we actually become more skilled because now we learn how to take people, not lead ourselves, but also how to lead other people through the very same identity shifts we've gone through. That's why mentorship is so valuable. When somebody's a few steps ahead of you, they've done the thing you've done. And because they've gone there and done the shadow work and worked on themselves and expanded themselves, then they're actually able to spot you in the places and spaces where you can't see yourself, So it's super, super important to have that awareness and to understand that, like, the short version is that you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. You're going to be better than fine, actually, because when you're going through a massive identity shift, what you're doing is you're upgrading, you're growing, you're expanding into your next identity self, who is a perfect energetic match for the new level of income, love, happiness, and well-being that you've been praying for. So next time, when you're going through your massive identity shift, when you're like, oh my God, everything's falling apart and I need to change, but I don't know how to change. And this is uncomfortable. And this is, ask yourself the question, why is this happening now? And I'll let you know what the answer is, because you've been praying for it. You've been praying for it. You've been praying to God, source, universe, this higher creator consciousness that, for the simplicity of this message, I'm just going to refer to as God, to forge your character into the version of you who has financial freedom, who has the love of your life, the home of your dreams, the family you never had, the conscious community, the abundance, the joy, the fun, the sexiness, the well-being, all the things you desire and pray for again and again. Those things that you visualize in your meditations, those things that you close your eyes and say, one day I will, ... This is God responding to you. This is God responding to you. And it doesn't always look like rainbows and butterflies. Because if, for example, if you've been stuck at an income plateau and you're praying to God, I want to jump into my income. I want to get to that next level of my income. What that requires of you is to become a version of you who's more responsible with your money, who has more discernment about the investment choices that you make, who can circulate money in a way that is in support to the collective, that is in support to people outside, in service to your purpose. If you've been praying for the love of your life to come into your life, what that requires of you is to become someone who takes self-responsibility for your patterns, for your shit. What that requires of you is to be someone whose heart is open to love, who can receive love, who's ready to receive love, If you've been praying for the home of your dreams, what that requires of you is to choose where you're going to live, or to choose what kind of home you want, who you want to share it with, what it looks like, what kind of budget do you have, and how do you need to up your investment or business or career game in order to meet that. So the things you've been praying for, it requires of you to become the version who's the perfect match for that. And so when we ask for these things, when we pray for these things, then God's like, all right, let's deliver. I'm here, but I'm going to, financial freedom example. Okay, you want to learn how to hold and circulate more money? I'm going to send you a really difficult, contractor so that you can learn how to put up your boundaries, so that you can learn how to say no, or how to, budget better, or have better contracts, or whatever that lesson looks like for you. And that lesson in and of itself will be uncomfortable, because it will require you to step out of your comfort zone. If you haven't been raising your standards, it's going to require you to raise your standard, and therefore do the work, the shadow work that's going to come up for you to raise your standards, to stop people pleasing, to stop not using your voice, to stop being passive aggressive, or again, whatever that pattern looks like for you. And if you're looking, that piece around love of your life, and someone comes into your life and you're really attracted to them and you love them, like, that's the point where you're going to need to learn how to speak up your needs. And maybe that's uncomfortable for you. You're going to need to learn how to ask for what you want. And maybe that's uncomfortable for you. So that's the quote unquote work, because when you learn how to ask for what you want, when you learn how to raise your standards, when you learn how to put up the healthy boundaries, you are going to be met with that reality. You're going to be met with, a contractor who respects you. You're going to be met with a partner who adores you. You're going to be met with a business model that supports your nervous system. Whatever that story looks like for you, know that you are going to be met at the level at which you hold yourself, and you will rise and fall at the level at which your baseline of identity is. So make sure you're raising your standards and you're raising that baseline. And, something that I say to my clients a lot, and I say it to myself, and now I'm going to say it to you. Knowing what you know, would you agree with me that in order to have these things you've been praying for, you must, I would say, be the version of you who naturally embodies the traits of having it all. And more than that, here's what I want to also share with you. You can have it all, not by holding it all, but allowing all of this to hold you. One of the biggest shifts I've made in my identity is believing that life wants what I want. And if I don't yet have what I want, it's because I don't actually want it. So sit with that. If you don't yet have what you want, it's because you don't actually want it. You don't want it to the level where you're willing to commit and make the shifts that you need to make to become the version of you who has it like down pat, right? So we keep ourselves from having what we want by entertaining the fears of why we can't have it. The fears that you can't have what you really, really want, that you can have some of it, but not all of it. You can kind of have it, but not really, because it will not be that great, or in the end, you'll get taken away. You can have it, but then you'll lose it. You can have it, but not for a really long time, or you just can't have any of it. Sorry. Does any of these stories sound familiar? Have you played any of it in your head? Because this is the stuff we tell ourselves that keep us small and keeps us separated from that next level of who we want to be and the things we want to create in our life. It's not a joke when people say that we are more afraid of our light than we are of our darkness, because that's what happens. The more we embody more of a light, the more it's going to illuminate our darkness. It's going to illuminate the trauma, the pain, the hardships. And when we navigate it unconsciously, just like the example that I told you about me 8 years ago, just like prancing my way around the world, not having an idea of what was actually happening, it creates mountains of armoring, self-protection mechanisms, belief systems that are basically popping up and fighting you because you embody that light, and then your unconscious is like, no, don't look at me. I'm not lovable. I'm not worthy. Don't you dare ever look at me. But for you to become a higher, better version of yourself, you've got to embody more of your light, which is going to bring up more of your darkness. And that's why we are so afraid of our light, because of all that it pushes up. And so many people simply do not have the tools, the know-how, the capacity to even deal with the darkness that pops up as we embody more of our light. It's hard. It feels overwhelming. especially if you don't have the tools. This is why I spent the past freaking decade, and I talk about this until I'm blue in the face, building up my toolbox so that I can go into my darkness fully tooled up. And I've got what I need in my tool belt to, oh, hi, demon. How are you? Okay, let's have a conversation. I have the tools. Like, hi, shadow. Oh my gosh, you are unintegrated. Ooh, oh my God, you're screaming. Oh, you're mad at me. Let me hold some space for you. Let me have the conversations. Let me ask for help when I need the help. So super important, I know so many people that are listening here, like y'all are healers, or you're all light workers. You're all out here doing the work. Otherwise you would not be attracted to me or this conversation. You probably wouldn't even make it this far. So what I have to say is, like, make sure you're building up that toolbox so you are tooled up and you have the support that you need, both internally sourced as well as, mentorship or whatever it is that you need to walk into your darkness and like know how to embody more of it. The more you embody your light, the more you're going to need to also embody your darkness, So all of that being said, what I wanted to share, I created like a little there's 6 things I want to share with you. And I created like a little guide for you to just share with you, like, what are the things that I've been working on that really helped me to navigate it. So let's get a little more practical now for the end of this, to complete this podcast. And I'll give you little nuggets of golden nuggets of doing this. And not only that, I actually, in more detail, put this in a blog post. It's celinedacosta.com/identity shifts. So if you want to go and like deeper into this, read it. You can see it in the show notes. You can pop online and know that there is even more resources for those of you who are like, damn, I need like more support here. Hello, soul family. I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. Before we dive back into the content, I'd love the opportunity to tell you about a free resource that I've created for you. If you're passionate about creating a business that's both deliciously profitable and rooted in the depths of your purpose, what you are here on this planet to do, if you care deeply about being in service with your work without compromising the joy and quality of your life, then you'll want to watch my free masterclass on how to grow a soul-aligned, prosperous business you love, so that you can stand out in the market and attract aligned clients with ease, all while living your best life. Yes, it is possible. This is for you, whether you're just starting a new business or if you're scaling up your current business. I share the 3 core principles to expand your business into more income, more influence, and more impact, while also experiencing more joy, fulfillment, and personal freedom this year. If you've noticed this about me by now, you can guess that this is not just another cookie-cutter basic masterclass. Get ready for a deep dive into yourself, what most matters to you, and how to practically apply these core principles into your work today to see real tangible improvement in how you attract high caliber clients, more easeful income, and more visibility to your work. How does that sound? To receive access, you can go into the show notes or type in the link, celinedacosta.com/business masterclass. Now let's get back into the episode. If you're navigating the tempests of change right now and you're going through these big identity shifts, here are a few principles to help you see in the dark. So number 1 is grow your faith well beyond your fears. Okay? We know change can be scary. Identity shifts can be scary. And it only gets to be a crisis if you decide that something's wrong. Okay? But what if, can I reframe this for you? What if your faith is being tested? And not by God, by the way, because the Creator's not here to test you. What if you are choosing to test your faith to experience what you're really made of? Because faith can move mountains. And you know that with unshakable faith, people have done crazy things. Like crazy things. Walt Disney got rejected hundreds of times before someone said yes. Thomas Edison made 10,000 attempts at the light bulb before something worked out. Like, what is that? It's faith. So if you're here and you fell down a few times, look, I've been here. I'm saying this because I've been here. Like falling just a few times and then being terrified to get back up again because it hurts from that handful of times. And I don't say this in a shamey way. I'm saying this to remind you, like, you are so powerful. And if you are still in the process, like if you are in the space of your fear being bigger than your faith right now, I just want you to look at everything you've done with the little faith you've had. I know it's like counterintuitive, but look at everything you've created in your life with the faith you've had. Can you imagine what happens if you start to grow your muscle and you start to actually grow your faith to be so big that it makes your fears look small? So listen, I don't even need you to make your fears smaller. Like, keep them big if that's what you want to do. Just grow your faith bigger. Because what would it feel like if you had so much conviction on your vision that no amount of mess ups and fallbacks could feel like a setback? What happens then? So my invitation for you is, what if it's time to walk in faith instead of fear? Yeah? This is the lesson. And yes, by the way, warning, disclaimer, to reprogram your subconscious to have that be the operating system is a step-by-step dance of putting it down, picking it back out, getting connected to the faith, feeling unstoppable, and then you forget you have it and you're like, oh shit, I'm powerless. And then you're like, wait, hold on, I remember who I am. So you fall on your ass, you sit there moping, then someone remind you how incredible you are, and then you decide to get back up. There's like a process of learning, especially if this is not your MO, if this is like not your natural go-to way of operating. It's a process, and it's going to move as slow or as fast as you need it to. So take the time you need to build up this muscle, but know that the muscle needs to be built. Why? Because for you to live a happy and calm life, you need to learn how to be at peace when what you desire has not yet manifested. And the only way to do that is by trusting that it's coming. And to cultivate trust equals have faith, right? Faith makes you waterproof when navigating the turns of the unknown, because that's how you'll know in your bones, no matter what happens, it will all work out in your favor. So here's a few ways that I strengthen my faith. And I also teach these tools to my clients, and I'll give you a few here. Yeah. And for those of you, again, if you're like, whoa, if this episode is sending goosebumps up your spine, it's like truth bumps, and you're just like, I really need to get into it, then just know you always have the option to reach out. We can look at, I do have, depending on the time of the podcast, sometimes I have spots available for private one-on-one coaching. I have resources that I can happily send you to. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if you're feeling like you're needing more support in this category, or you're wanting to build up that toolbox. Can definitely help you there. Yeah. So strengthen your faith by praying. And I know some people, like, I'm not talking about religion, Catholic, whatever, I have a Catholic upbringing, and if you're Christian, if you're Jewish, Muslim, if you're agnostic, whatever you are, just hold this loosely with me. Okay. Cause I'm speaking into the act of being in gratitude and being in communication with divine intelligence, whatever that looks like for you. I'm speaking about the act of communicating with that force that's larger than you and asking for what you need. I've learned to ask God for what I need. I ask for the support, the love, the resources. And I thank, all the time, like, thank you, God. Hey, I'm needing help with this. Like, I literally talk to God like God is my friend. God's my homie. And I'm always in like gratitude, thank you so much for having this. Oh, by the way, I'd love some help with this. It's important that it comes from the energy of surplus overflow instead of like that desperate, oh my God, please help me because I don't know what to do, because that's just not great. And that's probably not your next level self energy, but really being in that empowered space of you are supported. So just ask for what you need, and you can start doing that in prayer. And then you can extend that with the people that you love and trust. Another tool that I have is gratitude. Your secret weapon to always being okay is just being in constant thankfulness and gratitude of everything that you have. For me, it looks like every morning as I'm opening my eyes, I'm thinking, thank God for the birds outside. Thank God for this like really nice fluffy bed. Thank God for whatever else is going on in my life right now. And that's also how I fall asleep. I fall asleep thanking for all that I have. Another tool for you is appreciating all that's going right. If you're listening to this, honestly, the chances are you're like blessed. If you have a smartphone, you are like top 1% of the planet blessed. So count those blessings every moment, every day, anytime you can, just knowing that you are so surrounded by opportunities that might look like challenges or problems at a time. But when you zoom out, you're going to see that it's actually deeper than that. And gaining perspective is another tool. Like, talk to people who build you up. Let others support you and remind you of how incredible you are, especially in the moments where you're feeling down. And being in service. Oh my God, this one's the greatest life hack. When you are feeling like you're going through a massive identity shift and you don't know who you are, the best thing you can actually do, in my experience, is to become less of you and more of something greater. And like, really ask yourself, have you ever truly been in service and regretted it? Because best chances are what you have done is expand every time. You feel better. You feel better. Your heart grows when you are more in service. So have faith that you're planting the seeds of benevolence in the universe, that you are creating this, beautiful generosity economy, and it will make its way back to you. But that's a way that I found was really supportive. The second thing is to cultivate your power to extend beyond circumstantial power or the need for control. And it's like, this could be its entire episode, honestly. But okay, I'm going to say this really straight and without frills. Your lack of being able to handle the chaos of what's happening is a reflection of your current capacity for personal power. As I said before, you rise and fall to the level of your identity. You can't fake it. You will fall to the level of where your baseline of your identity is right now. And so a lot of people, they feel like they can't handle the chaos. They can't handle what's happening. And they're freaking out and they're panicking because they just forgot how powerful they are. Like, you forgot how powerful you are. Because if you knew how powerful you were, there's nothing to panic about, because you would trust and have faith that you're being taken care of, that you are exactly where you need to be right now. And a lot of people, majority of people, I'd say, they experience circumstantial power, which is you feel good and powerful because things are going great in the moment. As long as there's money in a bank account, as long as business is flowing, as long as you're high on love, as long as the weather's great, as long as life feels good, then it's easy to feel good and that you're in control and that you're happy. But what happens when things aren't doing so good? What happens when multiple things aren't doing so good at the same time? Now you're stressed and upset and freaking out and feeling like the world is going to come to an end, and then using your tools to regulate yourself and get back to homeostasis. But then something else pops up and this regulates your nervous system all over again. And the roller coaster ride continues, and you get thrown around like a leaf in the wind, which is so damn frustrating, because especially for those of you who've done so much personal development work exactly to prevent this, right? To feel better, to feel more at peace. Why isn't it working? What about the toolbox that you've been building up? Where did that go when troubles are brewing? Personal power. Personal power. You've got to build it up. You've got to build it up. You've got to trust that you're strong, you're resilient, you're capable through all that's happening in your life. That the challenges don't send you off in spirals screaming for bloody salvation, because you can stay emotionally sober and perceive that it's all happening for your greatness. And that doesn't mean you don't get to have the hard feelings and crawl into a ball and cry sometimes. You get to do that. You're human. You're allowed to have the feels, but let that not be an excuse to like sit in your misery for prolonged periods of time until someone comes in to check on you, and then you're mad because it took them that long. So instead, learn to cultivate your personal power, because you do have agency over your life. Don't ever forget that. You're the author of your story, and you're creating the story in real time. So if you don't like what you see, guess what? You created it. And what you didn't create consciously, you created unconsciously. So how do you know what you really want? Look around you. It's what you have right now. I know that's really confronting. It's multi-layered. Think about it. What you want is what you have right now, because it's what you tolerated. So for whatever reason, this reality has been created by you. It is what it is. It's in the past. But the excellent news is that just as you've created what you have until now, you also have infinite opportunities to create something new. That's how loved you are. God is constantly giving you opportunities to start again. No matter how many times you mess up. You're a fractal of a whole. Like you're a slice of God expressing yourself so that creation can experience itself. You're so powerful beyond measure. Own it. Take it. Take the responsibility. It may look heavy, but it's liberating. My grandma says something that I love. She says, we're all born with a cross to bear, but if we allow God to take both of our hands and carry us, the load gets lighter. So say it with me. I'm responsible for my reality, and if I don't like what I see, I can change it, and I will. Good or bad, convenient or inconvenient, scary or exciting, you have agency. You have the strength to overcome this, the wisdom to transmute your pain into faith, your fears into faith, and the vision to get on the other side. In the shamanic realms, they say that we're never given a challenge we can't meet. Life doesn't give us loads we can't carry. So remember that. The third tool is gratitude over everything. Every sage, every mystic, every religious figure, every person who oozes joy, it all comes down to this message. Gratitude is the secret to happiness. I've known this literally since I was a child. I would walk around as a little kid asking people, do you know what the secret to happiness is? And then they'd give me these words and they'd look puzzled that a child would even ask them that. And I'd be like, it's one word. Can you guess what it is? And when they didn't get it, I'd be like, gratitude, ha ha. And then I'd like run off laughing. It was so cute. I really didn't get it then, and I'm still in the process of learning it now. But the point is, be grateful. It feels good. It works well. It's one hell of an identity upgrade. Dr. Joe Dispenza, who I studied with, he says that gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. What a layered statement. Can you imagine what would happen if you truly, truly, truly took the time to count all your blessings? Like, take a moment to feel the potential of really feeling to the fullest every single thing in your life that you have to be grateful for. It's actually kind of scary. Like, sometimes when I think about it, or when I've been in those spaces, I almost feel like my heart will explode. And if you've spent the past decades armored up because of unresolved pain in your heart, or wrapped really tight in anger, regret, and guilt over your story, it could literally feel like death of the ego. Because if you really took the time to feel it all those fears you've been entertaining yourself with would be blown to smithereens, which means you would have no more excuses, no more reasons why you can't be happy, grateful, in love, in wholeness, in complete bliss and ecstasy right now. It's not over there after your identity shift happens. It's actually right now in the messiness of it all. Whoa. Now that's threatening to the ego, that is. But that's what this whole identity shift is, though, remember? It is a threat to your ego. It's a dissolution and integration of the parts of you that no longer fit into the new paradigm of reality you're designing in your heart. To the ego, it's death. To your soul, it's evolution. And gratitude is the crack. It's the happy juice. It's the liquid gold that gets the alchemy moving. So the craziest thing is how freaking scared most people are to exercise this easy, free, potent, transformational practice that has the power to unlock their abundance codes, open their heart to love, and expand them into a complete state of receivership and partnership with God. Crazy, crazy, crazy. And so human. I long for the day where I can claim the love in my heart so boldly that I allow it to explode in gratitude. Like, this is the medicine, the ultimate balm for our hearts, the lubricant for that massive identity shift and up level. Now, 4 is the human is allowed to hurt, but don't sit in it for the sake of suffering. You know what you've got to do. And you also know, for the most part, the ways you're not doing it. Because guess what? You're allowed to hurt. There's a lot going on. Being a human is not easy. You're managing a system that has a soul, a biological machine with a mind of its own, all these feelings that come and go like the wind, extra points if you're a woman. And on top of that, a mind that just won't shut up. So you're juggling a lot here. And then you have your extraterrestrial nature, your multidimensional self, like coming online, making this whole earth game a few levels more complicated. And honestly, compassion here really is the antidote. It's as inaccessible or far away as that can feel sometimes. This is the practice. It's unrealistic to think that just because you know everything, even these things that I'm saying, there's some things I've said that you're like, yeah, I know. I got to do that. It's not realistic to think you're going to be falling perfectly in stride with it. Part of learning the lesson, part of the upgrade is disconnecting and reconnecting, disconnecting, reconnecting. That's the whole dance of polarity, We create chaos to know order. We create indifference to know love. We create separation to know unity, and on we go, swinging on one side of the pendulum so that we can understand what it's like to be on the other. And the problem isn't experiencing the full spectrum of emotions that inevitably come and go with the process of our evolution. The problem is looping in the stories and getting stuck in the suffering because we forgot there's a way out. So if your human experience is hurting and you need to go crawl in a ball and cry, like, do it by all means. Like, hold yourself in that. Let someone else hold you in that. If you need to rage and scream and throw a tantrum, do what you need to do. Feel your feelings, all of them. Empty yourself out. But don't forget to wake up from the dream. To zoom out and remember that you are a microcosm in the macrocosm. You are a tiny piece of the puzzle, and all of it all at once. Your soul's got things to experience. This is one of them. Have the experience, but don't trap yourself in it with the ego stories. That's the jail. It's a tempting way to stay stuck in your current reality and avoid the inevitable change. So know that you can prolong change, but you can't avoid it forever. And remember that prolonging is what creates suffering, which is totally in my opinion, totally optional, unnecessary part of the human experience. So by all means, if you want to go experience suffering, go for it. I'm more interested in the opt-out button where I get to evolve and feel my feelings, feel my pain. But I don't want to feed my ego with suffering. I'm here to feed my soul. So that's why I'm here to feel the pain and then go do the magical stuff that I want to do. Now, the last thing that I want to share with you, there weren't 6, there's 5, by the way, is that your practice is everything. Remember, we rise and fall to the level of our identity. Our identity creates our systems, and our systems are comprised of our habits. So to change our life, we need new habits, we need new systems, we need to build a new identity. There's so much that you know, so much that you've studied, so many breakthroughs, so many promises, so many broken, so many commitments to do things differently. Yeah, you feel me? But in the end, none of that stuff you learned matters. There's no workshop, there's no seminar, there's no like coaching engagement that's going to give you a free pass. This is not a measuring stick for the things you've created in your life. You can throw those thousands of hours learning, studying, thinking down the toilet, because ultimately the only thing that matters is what you've put into practice. Not who you say you are, but who you are when nobody's watching. That's the real identity upgrade. That's the undeniable, indisputable proof. Not how much you've read about meditation, but how long you're practicing it every day. Not how much you've read about psychology, but how you're managing your emotional state during this time. Not how many coaching or therapy sessions you've done around your trauma, but how you treat people when you're triggered. That's a truth pudding. And that's where that's how you test where you actually are with your progress versus what you think you are, aka the ego. When you show up as someone that you're proud of, even when no one's watching, that's what builds your character. That's the stuff you've been praying to God for. And when you say, life, God, universe, source, please can I have this? The house, the lover, the money, the health. What you're really saying is, God, can you help me become the version of me who has this? And you know damn well that just having the external things will never be enough. It will never satiate your hunger, your soul. This whole game has always been and will always be about who you are and how you feel inside. So to experience satisfaction and joy in all the material things you're calling in your life, you must be someone who experiences satisfaction and joy with or without those things. Let that land. Otherwise, the moment those things are compromised, and they will be because that's how life works, you destabilize and chaos ensues unless you have your personal power. So when you pray the divine answers, by sending opportunities, challenges, people, situations in your way that allow you to practice what it really means to become the version of you who has it all, fears and all, which are now, when you do number 1, they're tiny in comparison to your faith. Yeah? So the question I want to leave you with is, who will you be when life asks you to rise into your next level identity? And you can answer that question intellectually, but can you feel in your bones that you're ready for it? Are you ready to shift? Not just in your body, but in your heart, in your mind, but in your heart, in your body, and your very cellular structure. And if the answer is no, then you must practice. Practice life your life depends on it, because it does. No less can you ask God to help you win that gold medal in the Ironman marathon without being willing to get up every day to train, to challenge yourself, and to do the hard things so that you can prepare your mind, your body, and your spirit for such a challenge. So look at your life as a marathon. The bigger, cooler, grander it is, the more you're asking for, the more you need to be prepared to receive the rewards. Because God, life wants to give you all those things. Your soul literally came here to experience them, or the desire would not have been planted in your heart. But you gotta show up for it. The human self needs to do something. Not because you're not worthy of it already, exactly as you are, because you are, but because you're on planet Earth and there are rules here. And if you didn't want to be here, you'd be having an astral party somewhere else where gravity didn't exist and energy didn't materialize into dense physical reality, okay? So you're being held together in this meat suit with the very same laws of nature that allowed Thomas Edison to turn an idea into a light bulb that you can hold in your hands. The dude had to wake up every day 10,000 plus times to try something new, to make mistakes, to get back up again, and literally put the light bulb together as a material thing you can perceive with your eyeballs that has altered the course of history. So that's not to say you need to have a go at it that many times or create mankind's next invention, but it is to say you're going to need to do something. So what are your habits? Are they leading you towards a new identity you're aspiring for? The way that you wake up in the morning, how you talk to people, how you're running your business, how you're handling conflict in your day-to-day, how much you're extending love to others. Are you proud of it? Are you happy with yourself? And if not, what's the next expansion? If not, what needs to shift? The biggest change starts with the smallest habits. This is not the time. When you're having a crazy, massive identity shift, this is not the time to skip out on your morning practice. This is the time to double up on it. This is not the time to be rude to people because you're stressed. This is the time to overcome yourself. This is not the time to push your loved ones away because you're afraid of your darkness. This is the time to bring them in and let love in, them love you in your imperfection. Change your habits, change your life. So to summarize, be who you say you are. Be the wisdom that you spew. Be the ideas that you endorse. Don't just explain your philosophy to you or anyone else. Embody it. Step by step, that's the work. And that is how the new identity becomes a sustainable one that you will never, ever lose, no matter what happens externally in your life, because it's anchored into your entire being. This is it. This is it. So in the midst of chaos, the turmoil, that what the actual fuck is happening, of the death and rebirth portal that we will be going through many, many times over, the void, the massive identity shift that you're bound to go through again and again as a human who's committed to your evolution, start with your practice. Train for your marathon. Focus on the process rather than the finish line, and reclaim the joy and satisfaction of being someone that you admire right now. Because that person that you become, that you are becoming, that you are, that person's your bestie forever. That person's got your back for all of eternity. That person is the person who will hold you up and remind you who the fuck you are on the next round. So cultivate that person. Love up on that person. Respect that person, because that person is you. And so long as they keep showing up for this game of evolution, you will never let you down. So stay strong, stay brave, stay you. Yeah. So this is the message that wanted to come through to me today. For me, for you, for all of us that are going through this incredible alchemy, this incredible shift. So if there's anything I can leave you with, is just remember how powerful you are, and remember that as you practice and strengthen your muscles, you are becoming the version of you then, but you're also now, right now, this moment, because right now is all that we have. Yeah. So that is the message that I wanted to bring through today. And for those of you who you're listening to this, that again, not all of you, but there's going to be some of you that are going to be listening to this thinking, oh my gosh, I want to go deeper into this. I feel like I need a guide. I feel like I need a mentor of some sort. So if that's the case, then don't hesitate to reach out. I highly recommend doing a Story Clarity Intensive with me, which I will link in the show notes. So in this intensive, we dive deep into identity shift. This is time me and you focused on you, and we dive deep. And what I mean by that is discovering the root of what has been creating chaos and confusion during this transition. It's a blind spot. That's why you can't see it. Clearing the blocks on a subconscious level, which looks like rewiring this empowering belief systems. It looks like releasing stuck emotions in the body and clearing your energy system so that the life force is flowing again. It looks like reconnecting you to your next level identity, the part of you that you're desiring to quantum leap into. And it looks like receiving practical, actionable, and customized action steps that will allow you to integrate and sustain this big change that you're calling in. If there's anything you've learned and seen about me, either by listening to this episode or multiple episodes or following me online, is that yes, the energy work is important. Changing our mindset, our emotional state, all these things are important. And at the end, we also need to ground it into practical actions that you can take in your life, personal and professional, right now, to start changing those habit patterns, to start actually seeing results. And we do that through the actions that we take in alignment to the person that we are becoming. Yeah. So for those of you who feel called to that, just hop into the show notes. These spots are very, very limited. At the time of this, again, I don't know when you're listening. They're really limited. So you can pop in online, and you can also fill out an application if you are desiring longer term private work with me. You can fill out an application, and we can set up a time to get on a call and see if this is the right fit for you. So that was what I'll leave you with. As always, if there's anything I've said that really inspired you, that really touched you, feel free to DM me on Instagram at celinedacosta.com. Take a screenshot. Let me know what really resonated with you. And yeah, do the homework. You might need to listen to this episode more than once, and just know that whatever change, whatever shift that you're going through, we are all in this together. Follow those practices that I shared with you. I promise it will make things much better. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. Sending so much love. You're the best. You've got this. You're powerful, and go create that massive identity shift that gets you closer and closer and closer to whatever soul destiny you're designing for yourself. And also remember, you are enough right now. All right, sending love. Mwah.
Thank you, beautiful humans, for tuning into today's episode of It's Not What You Think. If you loved what you received today, make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on future episodes, and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps us reach even more amazing listeners like you. If we aren't already connected on social media, come receive even more tips and inspiration by following me on Instagram at Celine DaCosta, or visiting my website at CelineDaCosta.com. After listening to this episode, I invite you to take a few moments to reflect. What stood out to you? What were your key takeaways or breakthroughs? And if there was one action step you could take from this, what would it be? Thank you again for joining me on this journey. I'm sending you so much love, and I can't wait to connect in the next episode. Until then, keep sharing your unique gifts and living out your most magical life.